Hello my friends, John LaRuffa here with another straight up solo, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at Boonlake. We're going to see how it plays from a solo standpoint, pardon me, and we're going to focus on that to see if this is the right kind of solo game for you. Let's take a look. Okay folks, and as usual, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. So let me give you an overview of what you see on the board, what you see here, and just try to paint the picture of what we're trying to do. This board right here is the AI board. Basically what it's showing, all of this area up here is showing you where you're going to put things depending on what you flip things over or what you flip over here. It tells you a little bit of how to take certain actions. So it's part player aid. And then over here, as you remove the wooden pieces and you move this thing down on the cactus track, you're going to start exposing points that will score during the 4 interim scorings and the final scoring of the game. On my side, I've got my player board here, and it is set up always the same no matter what and how many players you play. And you've got this production track over here with these little boats. These boats are kind of a little interesting mechanic on gathering resources. In this game, you don't necessarily gather the resources, you just have to have the capacity to produce them. All right, we also will start the game with one of these manufacturing tiles here, and that will help us to get more. And I'm going to go ahead and add the loam to my board. And this game is like some other games that we've played in the past, where the more you build, the more you score in the income phase. And I should say not just score, but also the more you get in income. So it could be money, it could be points, it could be other things. So it's one of those games is as you build, you remove, and it gives you more stuff. Similar to something like a Terra Mystica or a Gaia project or something of that nature. And that is a cool mechanism. I always like that mechanism. That's fun. There's also a lot going on the board here, but we'll get to that in just a second. Like other Fisker games, you do have decks of cards here, and these cards can be played depending on what you've got. It's a mixture of money and resources that you have production for. And ultimately, the cards will do something like give you points at the end of the game when you build them, allow you to do something immediately, or have some permanent thing that you can do throughout the rest of the game, or there'll be something like an end game scoring condition. So that's what the cards do. They're immediate effects, they're ongoing, and then they're end game scoring, plus they count for some points. For the most part, you can play a card either for money, but discarding it for money, or playing it on your board, pretty much every action of the game. The actions in this game are kind of a sort of lead action, and then people can follow mechanism, and that you can get that mechanic while playing against the AI the full way. The AI never follows you, which is really nice from a smooth execution standpoint. You don't have to worry about that, but you can follow him, all right? And that's what happens when you take a look at these different tiles here and what you end up doing as far as what's being selected. The AI itself is really easy to run. I'll explain that as we go and have demonstrated. There are several different skill levels that you can put in and swap out these cards with B versions of the cards that are much stronger than the A version, so to speak. And then, so that's that. Now, on the board here, you've got 4 different regions. You've got a region over here in Boonlake, one here in the Unknown, one in New Hope, and one in the Southern region. The regions are important because they score regionally. And it's pretty simple when it's time to score. To sum up, there is basically the more presence, the more physical wood things you have on the board, the higher your score is going to be, or the more income you're going to get, or something similar like that, okay? So it's not necessarily an area majority as much as it is you want to build things and develop things in different areas to get you those points when it's time to score, and also for some income if you choose, this tile in the game. The other thing you have is you have these goals that you have to do. You have to accomplish their conditions, and they're kind of mandatory. You get your choice of which order you want to do them in, but ultimately speaking, you have to do each of them once per game and only once. And in the different rounds of the interim scoring, the longer you wait, the harder it is. If you complete the scoring, you'll get 1, 2, 3, or 4 points, or double. For instance, in this one, this is mine, I get double the points. However, if you don't accomplish that mechanic, you lose those points in that round. And so it does force you to pay attention to what you're doing. It's not a complete free-for-all. You really have to pay attention to these. There's also things that you can do if you satisfy these conditions, which are kind of steep monetarily and resource-wise. You'll get a bunch of points, usually some income, and a couple of new guys. One of which will go right here the first time. The other one will be available to you. You're going to use your ranchers, of which you start with 3 in your ranch, to basically accomplish a lot of the development. So use them to settle, use them to turn them into houses, use them to turn those houses into settlements. Ultimately, the houses and settlements increase your income, and the more settlements you have or houses around where you build the cattle, the more points or the more money you're going to get. Okay? So just last thing is when you place tiles on the board, whatever you cover up, you will get that reward instantly. Now the game is driven by a timer mechanic, which is your boat's kind of going down these 2 channels, okay? And when any player crosses these locks for the first time, you'll do an interim scoring. You cross this, you'll do a second interim scoring. You start back at the top, you will go again, 3rd interim scoring, 4th, and then the final scoring. So it's basically driven along by this. And I would say that most likely in the solo game, the AI is usually going to take some of these top tiles, the first of 3. So it's going to drive the game kind of at a faster pace than maybe you would find in a multiplayer. I haven't really found that to be an issue because even though the rewards are better the deeper you get, it doesn't mean you have to always max them out. But you do for the AI. He always has to max them out. So you're gonna move along at a pretty swift pace, and I think that's okay. You want tension in the game, and I think if it went too leisurely, you would lack some of that tension. So there is some of that got to keep up with the Joneses angst. Finally, the one thing I didn't talk about is this area right here. You can upgrade or modernize some of these things, which allow you to do these one-time per round bonuses where if I have one of these little levers built, okay, let's say I have this one here, I can slide this down once per round to do whatever it says there. And when I don't use it, I get 1 point at the interim scoring. So, a bunch of different levers. Let's go ahead and demonstrate a couple of these different actions while we play a few of the rounds against the solo AI. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a couple of turns now. The AI always goes first. I've played a few turns already just to get the board seated up, and we're kind of in a spot where we're going to get to a first interim scoring, so you can see that. So it's my turn now. And what I'm going to do is I need to get some presence on the board with some cattle, all right? Because I know that's going to come up and probably score here in a minute. Let's see what I can do. So I'm going to choose this tile right here. This tile right here lets me score. So what it's going to do is, the way you read these tiles, first if you play a card, it tells you what type you can play, kind of what suit, in this case is the daylight. Then this part of it is the thing that the person who chose the tile can do, just me. Then this is for all the other players. Well, again, the AI completely ignores me, but when they choose a tile, I get the option to choose what I want to play there, as long as it doesn't say something like this, where it says, nope, you can't play as the first or the other person that. So I'm going to choose this tile here. When you choose a tile, you put it down on the bottom. It's also going to show me the maximum number of moves I can move my boat on the track. And I'm looking to see if I want to play any cards. And to be honest, I think I need more money than I need the cards. The fees of them are a little steep. So let's go ahead and discard this card and just get the $2. So I've got a couple more bucks there. So I decided not to play a card. Now I do want to play a pasture. All right, so I get to put one of these down and go anywhere on the board as long as they're touching something that's already been expanded. Now, looking at what I need to do here, I need to get presence in the unknown and in Boonlake. Okay, so I've got a bunch of stuff in Boonlake, but not a lot in the unknown. So I'm going to put this in the unknown just so that I can start building out there eventually. Covering that up gives me 3 cards, which is good because I'm a little low on cards. So I just draw 3 randomly. All right. Now with those, My next thing is I can put down a cattle, and I'm going to put one down. I have to spend one person because there is nobody on the tile if I wanted to build it there. But I actually don't want to build it there. I want to build it here because I want some presence already established. So I'm going to build it there. That's going to give me, I have to put 2 people now down, or discard them. And that will also give me $2 because there's a house. Doesn't matter who lives there, there's a house right there. Okay, so I'm taking that. And then the one thing about this game is you got to be paying attention. For the most part, it doesn't matter who is next to these cattle. Presence is presence, so you get whatever you get. But there's I'd say the only thing that's a little bit goofy about the game in execution is how much things cost. Because as you build more of them, sometimes you have to spend more guys or more points to do it, and it can be a little bit counterintuitive. However, I understand why they do that, because they want you, I mean, the deeper you get into this thing, the more benefit you're going to get out of it. So they got to balance it some way, and I get that. I understand why they do it. It's just not the easiest thing to pick up right away, since the cost is a little bit more variable depending on the condition of the board and the condition of what you've got going on. All right, so I did that, or I could have played another card, any kind of card for 2, but I decided not to do that. I just wanted to put that down. So now I can move up to 4. And what I'm going to do, so I could go 1, 2, 3, 4 and stop there. But actually, I think I want one of these vases, because these vases are useful in buying different things, and you could trade them for points and other things like that. So I'm going to go 1, 2, just pick up a vase. All right, my turn is done. Now we go to the AI's turn. Move that up. Now the AI, you are going to use these cards to figure out what they're going to do. All right. The first situation here has to do with the fact that are there any of these 2 tiles on the bottom? If they are, do this condition. If not, you're going to move up on the cactus track, which basically just scores you points at the end of the game. I'm sorry, at each of the interim scoring rounds. There is one of these, so we're going to take a little bit of a different action here. The AI is going to place, and I can't follow this because this is not part of the main action. The AI is going to go ahead and place one of their cattle on a spot. Now they're going to look for spots, and this is the only, I'd say, one of the 2 areas where it takes some moment to kind of figure out. But what they're going to do is they're going to follow this this type of priority system here to figure out where they're going to place it. The really only options are here or there. So what they're going to do is they're going to look at what is the number of presence around each of these spots. They're going to subtract the number of cattle that are there, and they're going to go for the minimum, they're going to look at that and see what it is, and then go for the minimum number of cattle here. So here we've got 1 minus 2, so that doesn't really help us because that's not an attractive place, and so they're going to end up placing it over here. Now that's a little bit counterintuitive, so I want to read you the rules here. It says, if the wise eminence, which is the AI, is allowed to place cattle, they proceed as follows. First, for each cattle pasture, they count how many structures, houses, and settlements have been built adjacent to it, no matter whom, and subtract the number of cattle from the pasture. So that was 1 minus 2 is negative 1. If there is exactly one space where the difference is higher than the others, they place the cattle on this pasture. Otherwise, they choose the pasture with the fewest cattle from the pasture equally high places. If there are more than one, they choose from these pastures by using the number of corner on the solo where it's pointing. Actually, they'll look over here. So the fact of the matter is that it's a little bit weird, but 0 is greater than 1, or negative 1, which is why they're going there. Okay? Now, whenever the AI has to choose a location, this is a little bit of a clever mechanic, and I like it because it's simple. Wherever this guy is pointing, and these are randomly spun around, it will choose the number in one of the corners, okay? One of the corners oriented based on where he is facing. So that you can see this one's facing down, that would choose a different one. What that does is that picks a number on this little map here, which tells you exactly what tile to start from. And if that tile isn't available for the priority, you start going in, increasing number order, kind of snaking your way around the board until you find one that makes it work, okay? You can wrap around if you need to from the bottom, like this is the 33 space, all the way back to the 1 space if necessary. That makes choosing where it's going to go so much easier than trying to figure out priority-wise, okay, if there's this many in this region, then here. If there's this many in this region, then there. The only if-there kind of situation really is, that scenario here where we're talking about
where to place the cattle, or where to do this action, which we're probably going to see right now, actually. So you'll see both of the most confusing, so to speak, things. All right. So like I said, we are done with that first one. We place the cattle. Now we go to the main action, and the main action basically says whichever of these 3 actions is at the top of the list or close to the top, take it. So there is the trowel, which is right here. There is the trophy, which is right here, and then there is the flag, which is down here. So the trophy is the highest. So we're going to select that. That's going to be his action. Now, this action says, first, place one of these bonus scorings in a spot and get that income. The income for the AI is always points, okay? Normally when it's you, it's money. But in this, or well, it's whatever it says here. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's points, sometimes it's cards. But for him, it's always points. So what he's going to do first to figure this out, he's going to take the region with the maximum number of presents subtracted from the region of his presence, okay? Well, the region that's the maximum number here would be this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus, I'm sorry, this is me, sorry. So he's going to go 2 minus 1, 2, 3, okay, is -1, all right? So there's -1 there, and there is 1 there. So what he's going to do, just so, again, I want to make sure we do this right, is it says he's allowed to build, oops, not that one. All right. They choose the region with the highest difference, the region where the number of your presence is most superior compared to the wise man's presence. The reason why they do that is basically what they're going to do is opt that area out of scoring. So in this case, both of these are superior, so they're not going to choose either of those. And if they don't choose either of those, they'll just throw off and choose one. I don't know what the real rules are. I'm pretty sure that there's a way to determine which one it is, but I usually go with the one that get them the most points because that's the way it goes. I'm sure it's specified there, but I just haven't committed that to memory. But you could also look here and say, okay, what's the region number? So this is region 1. Okay, well, he's going to go ahead and choose that. He's going to get 3 points. So that means that he wouldn't do that. But the thing is, he'd also get a point for that, so he's not going to do that. And so really it's the regions that he doesn't have presence in. Well, he's already scored this one, so it'd be over here. So he's going to get 3 points. 1, 2, 3. All right? Then he's going to get 1 point for this placement in that region, and he's going to get 1, 2, 3 points for that. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get 2 money. I don't get points, I get money. So I'm going to get 2 coins. And that's the end of his turn. And when that happens, we are going to now move 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Since he's crossed this lock, we're going to have an interim scoring immediately before I take my turn. That follows this procedure right here. So let's go ahead and see what we do. First, the only thing he does is score for his income and whatever cattle he has next to settlements on here, all right, which is extra. So let's get him out of the way first. So he will score 1 point, 3 points, and 4 points, plus 1 more right there. So that's 1, 4, 8, 9. So he's going to score 9 points because that's what he's got on his board right here. Let's go ahead and score him. Very simple. Okay, now let's go through the slightly less simple situation for me in my interim scoring. So what first I have to do is I'm allowed to build or upgrade 2 cards. So I could build 2 cards, I could upgrade 2 presence on the board if I had people, which I don't. I don't have anybody more cattle ranchers in here. Or I could just skip it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to play some cards. And the first one I'm going to play is going to be this guy to help my income. So I have to spend 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, because of that. Now I have to spend 2 of these loams. Well, I have 1 in the factory, but I need to get 1 more over here. So I can move my boat for free over there. 1, 2, that's 2 loam. I also need 1 of these irons. So I'm going to move this guy down here. It's free to move these guys down here. It costs money to move them back. 2 coins to move any number of spaces back for 1 boat. So I have satisfied the condition on that card. What it tells me is immediately move up on the income track. And from now on, every time I place a cattle, I'm going to get $2, which is good because I might place some more cattle. Okay? So we'll put that right there. So that's the first card I want to play. The second card I'd like to play is this one right here.
Do I want to play this card? I only have 2, 4, 5. I got 5 left. Well, I'm going to play it. And it allows me to discard some of my cards to get more of this. And this might help later. It's a little circumstantial, but it gives me 1 point. This is the printing plan. So I'm going to move this down here. And I'm going to have my resources that I need to play. So I can play this card. And it will immediately let me get 3 cards. Or trade 3 cards for 1 vase and 2 money. So I'm going to trade all 3 of these guys for 1 vase and 2 money. All right, we did it 1 time, or I could have traded 1 vase and 2 money for 3 more cards. I felt like doing it this way this time. We'll give it a shot because I'm hoping that these vases will pay off with my random draws there. And I will say this, the one thing that's, these decks are very big, so it is very much a luck draw what you're going to get. That's okay. For me it is at least. But the luck of the cards will dictate what you're going to be doing in some of these areas. Okay, but I'll show you why I wanted to do that here. Because I'm concerned about some of these scoring tiles. And I want to get some of them out of the way that might be more difficult later. So I've done that. Now we're going to have to choose. I have to choose one of these tiles from a condition that I meet to score. This one says I can exchange one rancher or $5 any number of times for 2 points. And in this case, I have to do it at least once. I'm forced to do it once. Okay, because I'm in the first interim scoring. I'm going to do that. That's kind of why I wanted to get that money. So 2, 4, 5. To do that, play this, and get the point. The reason I did that is because as the game goes on, I'm going to have to be forced to do that a lot more. And that means I'm going to have to build up a bunch of cash, and I don't really want to do that. And I don't feel like losing points for it. So I'm kind of getting that more difficult. Maybe it's not more difficult, but it's the one I think is going to be tougher to do. Getting that done and getting actual points for it before the end of the game. Where I lose, or not before the end, but where I might lose points for it. Now I'm going to go ahead and look, did I fulfill any of these things because it's income time. So I get 2 coins from this space over here. Then I get 1 coin, and I get 1 point for every cattle that's next to a settlement. Well, there are no settlements here next to me, so I don't have that going. But that's the whole hope, is that I will get more of those on the board. And surround my cattle with some settlements and do other things that can help me later. Now, I would also get, I score these income tracks, so I get 3 coins here for the mine income, and I get 3 new cards from that income over here. So let's go ahead and get 3 new. So I've got a trading house, a distillery, and a statue. All right, they're not bad. They're going to help me get increase these things on the track, which is good to get in the beginning of the game, so I'm happy about that. All right, last step is I would score 1 point for any levers that if I had any, didn't use. Well, I don't. And we remove these little bonus tiles here blocking those regions from that interim thing. And that's it. That is the end of the interim scoring for the game, for that first round, okay? So he's done. Now I would take another move, and basically what I'm going to do is I would choose another one of these things, do some more actions, but I'm just going to verbally discuss some of the actions that you would do. Sometimes when you place these down, we've already kind of talked about these actions, but I would say that the game comes down to trying to find pockets of value, trying to get your hands on more coins and resources to build these big ones that give you 8 or 7 points, fulfilling these conditions over here so you can positively score for them versus being penalized, and then keeping one eye on the AI bot to see what it's going to be doing to boost up some presence, so you don't let him kind of take over regions as much and just run away with it. So that is the kind of style of the game it's played. I think, like someone asked me, does the Pfister game have new and unique freshness? Okay, and so I will talk about that. I guess I'll talk about with the board out here right now, what I see similarities and differences from his other games. Similarities, I see that the card playing is, in a lot of ways, I feel like Maracaibo. It feels like that. You're kind of top decking cards, seeing what you want to do and playing them down to get some effects, so that's pretty similar. And this kind of movement track system, I guess, gives me a little feeling, sort of, from maybe Great Western Trail. I don't know, but it's actually, I take that back. It's more like Maracaibo again, because you don't have to go as far as you can. So I guess I take that back with the Great Western Trail. It's more like Maracaibo. So I think that as far as the similarities, this game has some of those with that game. However, the board placement, the tile placement, and these little packages of value, I think, are different. So it does feel like a different game on its own. That's why I said in some of my comments earlier, it definitely feels like a unique beast on its own. This action selection mechanism is pretty cool. If you want to take the bottom ones, you have to pay points to do it. So to take the same action over and over is disincentivized, whereas the longer an action waits, the farther you go down the river with it, and it's free. And so I kind of like that. It's interesting. You may want to choose an action, but oh no, I can't do that. You want to choose an action that corresponds with a card. Ooh, if I do that, I have to pay the points. And so I like that tension there. It gives you some interesting choices in that regard. So those are the similarities and differences I can think of when I think of his games. I do think this one has a more fresh feel. I don't think it's a retread of some of the other ones that he's done. But you know, your mileage may vary. You can figure that out on your own, whether you think it's got some of those similarities to, for instance, some of the production chain kind of things. Well, I don't even know if it's really production chain, but you get some of those, maybe a slight flavor of that board presence sort of thing from Newdale, Expeditions of Newdale, but I don't know. I'm struggling with this one. I still think this one is its own beast. So let's go ahead and let's just review back up top with what I think about the game, pluses and minuses. Okay, so hopefully from what I've explained, you have an idea whether this is a solo system you would like or not. I'll tell you that managing it, you saw the most, I'd say, circumstantial or conditional kinds of actions and decisions you have to make. Most of them are quite quick. Most of them are just put a tile down based on the number, turns over. Do you want to follow it or not? Move the little cactus over. Do you want to follow that action or not? Very easy to do, and I love that because there's a lot of things that you can focus on in this game, and you want to be able to do that without being super distracted by what the system is doing. So I think they did a great job there, and I think the AI is very easy to manage. Now, I played it once. I beat it on easy. I didn't crush it on easy, I beat it, but I think that's perfect. I want to beat the AI on easy or come really close the first time I play a game. I don't want to slaughter it. They have easy, medium, difficult, and then the fourth one's really hard. And I think that is cool. I love that there's some scalability with this difficulty level because I think you want to find that right balance for you where you are, and then keep it there until you can take it up a notch. And I think that's good. I think they'll give a length to the game, replayability, which will be fun. From a standpoint of overall replayability, the cards you get are going to be different every time. The 4 conditional scoring tiles can be different every time. You've got a big stack here. There's over, probably a dozen or so in this stack, not including the ones out there. So you've got plenty to take a look at from that scoring standpoint. So that will definitely affect how you play the game. The different kind of improvements that you choose to do to focus things will help. So even though your actions are somewhat limited, the way that you employ them, the things that you do, are going to make it much different. I mean, basically what you're really doing is you're going to be playing tiles on the board, you're going to be putting stuff on the tiles, you're going to be improving those things. That's it. There's not a ton of combo-esque kinds of actions in this game. It isn't like that. It's all about building up and I wouldn't even say it's an engine because there's no engine aspect except when you do your income, you're getting rewarded like you do in the Gaia project or Terra Mystica. So it definitely has that feel to it of I've built stuff out there so that when the income phase comes, I can get a bunch of stuff. So it's sort of like an engine, but it doesn't have some of the other trappings, I think. I think that the real thing here is the different conditional scorings are going to drive you in different ways, and the cards you get are going to affect that. So I would say this game is more tactical than strategic because the board setup is going to largely determine what you're going to focus on. That's okay. I don't mind that.
I like tactical games when there is a good way to play it. It's not just completely play it without any kind of guidance of like, well, we're just going to see how the whole thing goes, and each move is just going to feel like the same move that I did before. There's no arc. There is an arc in this game for sure, definitely. And proper smart plays where you set yourself up for bigger and bigger interim scorings are definitely part of that strategy that you need based on what the board looks like. But it is tactical for sure. So I think it's very easy to run the AI. I think the AI can be competent and challenging. I don't think it's a headache to do. I think it's fun to play. I have very little negatives about this game, to be honest. In fact, I can't think of any of them, except it's not one of those kinds of games that you are going to say, I'm going to try the building strategy, or I'm going to try the cattle rancher strategy, or I'm going to try this kind of strategy. You're not going to be able to make those decisions because there's too much in the game that fluxes that way. Now, once you set it up, you're definitely going to say, okay, this is the right kind of tactics that are going to be probably more competitive to get these things done. And so it does guide you a little bit that way. But your cards and the things like that, you have no control. I mean, you're going to get a variety of them, and that's good. You cycle through probably 15, 20 cards throughout the game. You start with a hand of 6, but there's 150 cards there, so they could be varied in all sorts of ways. You're not going to see them all. You're not going to see them all in 10 games. There's lots going on. So I like it. Hopefully this has been informative to you, and you can figure out if it's some game that you would like or not. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. And please, whatever you enjoy in the future gaming-wise, have a fantastic time doing it. Take it easy, everybody.